24 hours, Georgians will be under a shelter-in-place order.
McDonald, though, said he did not know the man was handcuffed and was trying to use his foot to pin him to the ground so he could be handcuffed.
If your friends, neighbors, or local organizations are not complying, report them to us.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Jake Green. Welcome to the Free Georgia podcast. Before we get started, head on over to, let me pull this mic a little closer. I think it's a little off. There we go. Head on over to lpgeorgia.com to learn more about what the Libertarian Party of Georgia is doing around the state to help spread freedom and liberty. We have a lot of things going. We have a 2A range day. We've got many ways to get involved. We've got a store with pins. We've got all sorts of stuff. If you want to know where you fall on the political spectrum, you can go take the world's smallest political quiz. You can check out some of our ads, our blogs. You can see where upcoming events are. Yeah, there's just a whole mess of resources for you to go check out. My favorite is Liberty Watch. Brian Allen heads that up and sends you emails detailing the legislation that might pass and that is being proposed during the sessions in Georgia Congress. So very informative. It lets you know exactly what laws may or may not be coming on the books soon. So that's a great one to subscribe to. So go check out that email list. And yeah, I think that'll do it for that. Today we have Justin and Tessa Carr joining us on the podcast. They suffered a tragic event at the hands of police, and I'm going to let them tell the story. And yeah, we're going to talk to them for a little while. So without further ado, Justin and Tessa Carr. All right, Tessa and Justin, welcome to the Free Georgia podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So y'all, the story that brings y'all here today is not a happy one. Can you, first off, can you tell us where in Georgia y'all live?
We live in Powder Springs.
Powder Springs. Okay, I know Powder Springs. Been up there quite a bit during the 2022 campaigns for Shane Hazel running for governor. So can you briefly describe what happened the night of the event, just like what led up to it?
Of course. In a nutshell, I won't go into the whole entire story because it is a lot. There was a 911 call that was not made by us, and nobody ever really found out who it was made by, to my knowledge. And the police were trying to locate this person who, to begin with, they told us that they heard screaming, but it come to find out that it was a voice saying, "Help me, help me." Mm-hmm. And so they were able to pinpoint where it was in the area because it was off of a 911 only like burner phone. Mm-hmm. And so it led them to our area, even though we hadn't been home at the time or anything like that. And so the police show up to our house and they ring our doorbell, and we had no idea who it was because it's almost 9:00. It's between 8 and 9 at that time.
It was an Amazon delivery.
Right. But neither of us had made a purchase. And so we were like, that's just kind of weird, right? Mm-hmm. But we waited for a minute before Justin went to the door. And when Justin went to the door, he went out and he said it was the police. Well, I've had a very traumatic experience one time when the police showed up at my house. They gave me extremely bad news the time that they showed up, and that was in 2008. And so my mind automatically went to the worst when he said that the police were at our house. And so walked over to the door, and when he had gone out, we have two doors on the front porch. We have a wooden door, and then we have a glass screen door. Well, our glass screen door, when it shuts, it doesn't actually latch. You have to manually lock the door for, the door not to open. Well, the dogs got out, and we were able to stop Hank directly on the porch. But Zeta, our bird dog, who is very loud, went down the steps, and the police officers, there were two of them. There was one at the bottom of our porch and one closer to the driveway. Well, Zeta goes down the steps and she's like, who are these men? These are mystery men. And so she does what she always does when anybody shows up at our house, and she starts barking. Well, she barks at the first guy, and then the second guy gets her attention somehow. So she goes and starts barking at him. And before, I think we had maybe 1 second between the time he said, "Sir, get your dog," and the time that he shot Zeta in the face and fatally wounded her. It was awful. No other attempts were made to de-escalate the situation. She was not attacking anybody. She was simply barking at them, and he went straight to lethal force before we could even react. It was bang, bang. And our 3 kids are very traumatized by it because they got to see their dog, their Zeta, get killed by a police officer unnecessarily.
Wow. Well, I'm so sorry. First off, you already answered one of my questions, which was, did he even try to use non-lethal force? Because that's generally what is supposed to happen. Is the first thing they do is try to use non-lethal force.
Correct.
Wow. So not even an attempt by either officer to do that.
Nope.
Well, they said they don't have a policy on their press conference, but Tessa was shared a policy that's on their website that has all the steps of de-escalation, and in big bold print, it also says lethal force should be the absolute
last
option,
resort,
especially in front of kids.
Yes.
So
yeah,
and the whole thing too is like I think the most upsetting part for me, other than losing our dog, is the way they tried to twist the narrative on it. The video that they presented in the press conference, they freeze frame where Zeta it does appear that she's lunging at an officer, right? What really happened when you watch the full video is she got startled because she realized she got too close, and she doesn't do that.
No,
she's a 5-foot perimeter dog all day, every day.
Yeah.
When she lunges back, he does too. So it makes it appear that they were, well, what happens immediately after that, which they don't show, is that she runs about 8 feet away from him, around him. And that's when she heard the other guy and spotted him. Mm-hmm. And then she is going, to his area to like say, "Hey, I'm here. I see you." Tail's wagging, the legs are low, which is a defensive stance, not an aggressive stance. Mm-hmm. We've done a lot of research since the event, and it is pretty apparent that when a dog has decided they're going to attack, there's no second guessing. They've made up their mind. You're getting teeth. You're going to get them. Yep. She never made contact.
She did not make contact with either officer. And that's something that has been very disheartening and disappointing in this whole process and how the Cobb County Police Department has handled this situation. They claimed to be doing an internal investigation. Mm-hmm. And so far, they have reached out to Justin for 1 3-minute phone call directly before they did their Facebook Live press conference. Mm-hmm. We have not heard from them since or before that. And one thing that they kept saying during this press conference is, "Well, I'll let you be the judge about what happened." But then the chief himself admitted during the question and answer portion, the interview portion with the media, that nobody was bitten. And it's just very upsetting that they are working so hard to justify this killing when it was preventable, it was avoidable. It was done by a police officer who is extremely immature, incompetent, and I can't see how the people we're supposed to trust to serve and protect the community can go straight to deadly force for fear of a bird dog.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no kidding. The one thing that does tend to happen regularly is the lack of training and lack of understanding for cops on the job. They don't tend to give them extensive training on all situations that they could face. And you'd think this would be one of them, since so many people in Georgia have dogs.
Right. Exactly.
Like this should be something that they're well versed on, that they know what an attacking dog looks like, that they know exactly like what the situation is when it's happening.
Yes.
And not just blindly reacting to something out of pure fear. And yeah, when that happens, you end up with situations like this. Justin, I'm interested to know, when they called you, what was that conversation like?
So the chief of police, I'm not familiar with his name, but again, it was such a brief conversation and really wasn't interested in what they had to say, because I could tell that it was a formality from the moment he picked up the phone call. But basically, he told me a story about, I lost a dog on the 4th of July. I know how it feels to lose an animal. I didn't ask any questions. I just said thank you. Just trying to be careful with what I say. There's a lot of emotion involved in this situation that we're in. Yeah. If you've seen the full body cam footage, you can tell that I do get really angry. And once the initial shock wears off, I was pissed. I was very pissed, and said some things I'm not proud of, but I'm also not ashamed that I used that kind of anger. But it was, if you need anything, you can reach out to us. He gave me his phone number. Said if I don't answer, leave me a voicemail. I'm never in my office. And we got off the phone. It's literally a 3-minute phone call, right? Immediately, I text Tessa and say, hey, they finally called, offer their condolences. And then she said, they're doing a Facebook Live right now. And I was like, what? So she has a panic attack at work. I'm watching the live while me and her mother are driving to her work to pick her up, because her administrators called her and said, she's not well. We need to get her home. She's just not handling this right now. Mm-hmm. So in the middle of all this is how quick it happens. A 3-minute phone call. I felt like on the phone call, I was like, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere here. But then when I get alerted by not just my wife, but several people, like, hey, they're doing a live right now. They're doing a press conference right now. And he did mention that they were going to talk to the media, but he didn't tell me it was going to be as we were walking, or as we were talking on the phone. I mean, that dude had to be walking towards the stage when we were on the phone.
Wow. Because
they were doing the mic test and camera test as soon as I pulled up my laptop and opened it. So, that's one part of it, right? The other part that really bothers me, and I don't think we've brought it up yet, is someone called and said, help me, right? Mm-hmm. They canvassed the area and thought they heard screams while they were driving past our house. I don't know how you hear a scream while you're driving in a patrol car past our house, but that's where they landed. So whatever that investigation led to our front door, right? Yeah. What I want to know is, did they continue to pursue the source of the call after they killed Zeta? Because from the video, it sounds like they were just going back to the police department. Yeah. And so does this investigation for the original purpose of the visit to our house just end because they made a mistake and shot our dog? Or you get what I'm saying? It's just very odd that, a dog was murdered, and now this call that we originally came here for doesn't matter. I want to know what they did with the call after, because you can't just squash it. We were a guess. We weren't the source. We were a guess. Mm-hmm. So you picked our house because you thought you might be close, but when you realized you weren't, and then you killed one of our family members, apparently you just go back to the office. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Yeah,
I mean, especially considering the call that was made.
Exactly.
Someone's in distress and they had the wherewithal to call the police. You'd think they'd still be searching for that person.
Exactly. And also, Jake, when I answered the door, there wasn't a mention about a phone call at all to me. It was, are y'all screaming in there? I was like, I don't think so. We just got home. Yeah. And toward through my rant at the end of, Zeta's dying, And I told them, I was like, we live on 20 acres of family land. Our neighbor is her mother.
Jeez.
And I was like, she's not going to call if we're screaming. If we're screaming, we're probably chasing the kids around outside playing tag or basketball or something, right? Her mom's not going to call the cops before she calls us to check on us. Her cousins, our other neighbors, she's not going to call the cops on us. You know, we host events here all the time. We're doing New Year's. We do 4th of July every year. We have something we call Beer Olympics, where it's like a night out for adults, where we come here and responsibly play kid games with a little bit of beverages and have a good time, right? Everybody Ubers home responsibly, because we're all about law-abiding citizen stuff. But it's just incredible that how they got from the phone call to our front porch, and the result of that ended with us being down somebody that we, something. So Zeta's not a pet. She was family. So a family member dying unreasonably. The entire situation was nuts. We're talking in this exact same time frame. Get your dog, bang, get your dog, and then they yell at Tessa because she's going to get her dog. They point a taser at her and yell her to get back inside. And she's like, I'm trying to do what you told me to.
Like, I don't even
and then
know.
they're like, sir, I wish you could have got your dog. And I was like, we were trying.
Yeah, you gave us zero time.
Like literally, I could have, if they would have gave me three real seconds, I could have grabbed Zeta by her collar and she would have ran inside with her tail tucked. She wasn't even close to the guy.
No.
So,
and what's wild too, I mean, there's a lot of things about this whole story that is just completely wild. Zeta and Hank have collars on that keep them within the confines of an invisible fence. And they were within our fence. Like she never tries to cross over that invisible fence.
Zero breakouts in 90 days.
Zero breakouts in 90 days. And so she's on her property. She is barking. She hasn't done anything wrong. And now we've lost her because of somebody being trigger happy. And it's heartbreaking.
That really is. That is wild. I'm even more intrigued by the fact that they did pull a taser, but it was on you.
Yeah.
So there were two officers that were
sense.
involved in, we'll call it the altercation, right? The officer that she actually got close to pulled a taser. He's properly trained. He pulled a non-lethal.
But he did not shoot it.
He did not shoot it. He had it ready. Did not even aim it at her. He backed up. He was properly trained. The first officer was properly trained. The second officer immediately reached for his firearm and shot Zeta when she was probably 5 to 7 feet away from him.
Yeah. She was not even close.
And he shot her right through the right eye. And I don't want to get into details about what this looked like, but there was a moment where Tessa's like, can we save her? Like, can we take her? And I was like, I don't know. And then I looked at her, and then her mom was down there at this point. And I was like, no, she's gone. She had started urinating and defecating all over the ground because she was losing her control. His
shot did not kill her automatically. She suffered.
Yeah, she had
for several minutes afterwards.
There was about 10 minutes of her pain and suffering. She had she had seizures. A last jolt of energy to get closer to Tessa when Tessa stepped away for a second. And that's ultimately where I had to ask. So I was trying to get the cops off the property because I obviously can't pull a firearm in front of them. So I asked them to leave. I went inside and I got my legally owned firearm. I asked Tessa and Teresa to leave, and I ended up having to put her down myself. And I did 2 shots to be sure because she was already suffering enough. I'm pretty sure I got her on the first shot, but if you talk about real pain, I was inconsolable for about a half hour when I came back inside when it all settled down. That's the first time I've ever killed anything that I loved. I've hunted before. You step on an ant, not feel anything, but like I feel like I killed my kid a little bit, and it was terrible. And I had to, right? So I don't think Tessa's ever seen me in that state before. It was bad. But so now here we are picking up the pieces. And last Friday I had to dig her up from the grave that I buried her in to take her to Athens to get a necropsy because our potential representation from a litigation standpoint thought it'd be a great idea just to have that statistic, that information documented. So that was a whole nother Band-Aid being ripped off. So as far as like the physical pain of this from our standpoint, I think we're pretty much past that part, having to relive every second of it and having to like see her. But they took away something that my kids are talking about hourly. Hourly. And they just can't stop talking about it. We're doing therapy. We're counseling starting the week after Christmas. The kids are going weekly. Me and Tess have already done a session. So it's they're terrified of the cops. They think every time I go outside that the cops waiting for me or waiting for Hank.
Our daughter has mentioned that she's afraid that they're going to shoot her. She won't even walk in front of windows at night anymore because she's afraid that the cops are outside.
And this girl wasn't
she's
scared
7.
of anything.
Yeah,
she was
7.
never scared of anything until that Monday. So it's been a journey because like we do have one kid that so our oldest has been kind of scared of everything for a while. He's just an overthinker. He's struggling. Our other son, the middle son, he's a lot like me. He's compartmentalizing a lot, and we're actually worried that he's holding too much in, and that he's gonna blow up at some point because we know he cares and we know he's sad, but he won't talk about it.
Yeah.
And Whitley, she tries to make jokes because she thinks that it might make her feel better, but she ends up making these jokes and then she starts crying because she feels bad.
Yeah. Jeez. And all of that in like a split second. That is.
Oh yeah. From the time she got out of the door to the time she was shot in the face was probably less than 8 seconds. Like it was quick.
It was really fast.
So, but yeah, so, we want something good to come out of this. And Jake, we're going to hopefully use platforms like you have and some other folks that we've talked to. We really want to start something in her name that brings educators and police officers together and maybe come up with a curriculum, a realistic training, field training, what have you, that helps officers prepare for situations like that. Because we know they don't come to the house to kill animals. We know that. We're big back to blue people. Like we know we need cops. We have to have them. If we don't have cops, we don't have any kind of civil order, but we need them to be properly trained. That way they aren't killing innocent animals and people for that matter.
Yeah.
Right. So we would like to, unofficially are calling it the Zeta Foundation. We'd like to line up with, so anybody listening to this, if you're a trainer, we'd love to talk to you and get with you on maybe developing a curriculum that we can present to the county, at least start with Cobb County, hopefully mandate this and see some success that we can push it across the country. Because I think the entire country, every police officer can benefit from more training. It's not going to hurt them. It's going to protect them more than anything. So we want to do something good like that. We want something good to come out of this.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, if you must have cops, they need to be as well trained as is humanly possible.
Absolutely.
Right.
And they need to be trained to protect you and your family, not to consider everybody suspects in whatever case they happen to be working on right then. Because it sounds like they approached your door as though you were a suspect for some reason, even though nothing.
Yeah, because they rang the doorbell and got off the front porch. They were already at their distance, getting ready for whatever might have come out the door, which was just a really patient father of 3 that was wondering why they were there. So, it's crazy how, a night of basketball practice and eating Mexican food with your kids turns into a fatal shooting of your family dog. So within 8 seconds.
I wish I could say that this was not common, but it's extremely common.
We realized how common it was after it happened. I didn't realize how often this happens.
It happens a scary amount.
Yeah.
And what drives me crazy is he called you to offer condolences and said that he lost a dog on the 4th of July. The language that he chose there seems very specific to no one killed my dog. My dog died on, or
exactly
that day. And it's like those two things are not the same.
No.
Like
I wanted to ask him and I didn't, but I wanted to say, well, did one of your officers shoot it in front of your family, or did it just die somehow? You know,
you have
but
way more patience. Than I do.
it's, you know, I'm not going to rip scabs off for people. You know, I've already got my own wounds that we're trying to heal, trying to take care of our family. And you're right though. Why even tell me that story? That I've lost dogs before too, of natural causes, not brutal, lethal force. I've never experienced this in my life, and it's life changing. It really is.
Yeah,
it changes your whole perspective on everything.
Yeah, everybody's lost dogs. Like, you know, if you've ever owned a dog, you've lost a dog. Like
it's a circle of life, baby. I mean, that's what we do. You get dog, you love dog dies, you're sad, and then a year or so down the road, you restart the circle with a puppy, and it's you go back through it, and it never ends. It's a never ending loop. So
yes, it is. Well, so you mentioned some of your plans on trying to come up with a curriculum for Cobb County Police. How can people out there help y'all and setting this up, or any other way?
You got it.
I mean, that's a really great question about how the public could help. We have had such support through the last couple of weeks that, I mean, it makes my heart feel so full seeing that people are trying to help. And honestly, I don't know where to start. I really don't. Obviously, keeping stories like this alive so that people understand that this is not an isolated event, because we need a change. There has to be a change. Another family having to go through this makes me sick to my stomach, and I don't want that to happen. So, again, I don't know how or where to start. I just know that we have to do it.
Mm-hmm. I know you'll have a Facebook page. So is it okay to bring that up real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. There you go. Justice for Zeta. There she is. Why did y'all start this Facebook page?
I started it because I didn't want a ton of our updates coming from our personal pages. I knew that a lot of people were interested in the story and they wanted to know what the outcome was even going to be. And so I tried to make some kind of a central location based on a suggestion from somebody who commented on Justin's original post. And so it's my way of getting our information out there, telling our side, because it does seem very much like Cobb County is trying to justify this or twist it in a way to make it seem like that was okay. And it's simply not. And so it's my way of letting people know, hey, we're in this together, and it's not gonna fly.
Oh, thanks for letting us know that he's in it too.
Okay, Hank.
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll make sure to put the Facebook link down in the episode description so that people we don't want to let this story die either. So the more people who can follow along and follow the Facebook page and keep getting updates, the better.
Yes. Thank you.
Keeping law enforcement and our government accountable is one of the biggest things the Libertarian Party tries to do. And so
I love that. You have to. I
mean,
mean, if you're not held accountable, then this is just going to keep happening over and over again. And eventually it's going to get worse. And that's not okay. It's simply not okay.
If you shoot a police canine, you go to jail. So
for a very long time. Let's
reciprocate that law and make sure that family members aren't slain, innocently. Like it doesn't make sense that type of protection doesn't apply to family dogs. In the state of Georgia, dogs are just property. They don't actually qualify as like a family member, which I think is ridiculous, but I was explained to by a couple attorneys why that's that way. It's so that veterinarians can get sued for providing care, which makes a lot of sense. So they have to make decisions a lot to help you protect. And so it's unfortunate that that's tied together, but I get it. We live in a world where you get sued for looking at somebody the wrong way. Right. So that sucks, but yeah, we're going to do something, whether Cobb County beats us or not, we are still going to do something good out of this, with or without support. The support we do have has been fantastic. Yeah. And, we've got a lot of different groups reaching out to us, wanting to do similar things that we're doing tonight. And so, like I said, we're going to try to enjoy the Christmas season together as a family. Our kids, my wife especially, deserves some happiness this Christmas and New Year's. But you can bet your bottom dollar that come January 1st, it's time. It's go time. And we're going to start working really hard on this.
Well, that's what we like to hear. Sorry I had to come to this for some change to maybe happen. But I'm glad y'all are going to fight. That's wonderful. Not everybody does. And, 20 years ago, people like how many times was this swept under the rug and no one knew about it because there was no internet for people to talk, put their own story out there. We're incredibly thankful to be able to do this kind of thing so that we can get messages like y'all's out to folks and they can follow along and help make change, because it definitely needs to happen, because like we said, this happens a lot, and it doesn't just happen with animals, it happens with people too. I'm covering I'm making a whole documentary podcast about a guy who was killed on his own property in 89 seconds from talking to a police officer. So it's not just animals, and it's not just in Georgia. That one's in Montana. It's rampant everywhere. And one of the things, I don't know, I should have looked up these laws in Cobb County, but do y'all know anything about qualified immunity?
I've heard it. I've heard that police get it. I don't know. I'm not very well versed on exactly what it is. It just sounds like, to me, it's an excuse to let people get away with some really crappy things.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. It's so that when an officer makes a mistake, they're not held accountable for that mistake. And that is something that the Libertarian Party of Georgia has been fighting hard to get off of the books, because it is ridiculous how many times cops commit crimes that if anybody else committed it, we'd be in jail or worse.
Right.
And so that's something I need to look into the laws in Cobb County, because it's not in every county, it's not in every city. So it's, but it is a lot more than counties that don't have it. So yeah, that's something to look into as well. But do y'all have any final words before we sign off here?
I just want to say thank you again to everybody who is helping us keep this story alive, keep Zeta's memory alive, and not letting her die in vain. Thank you for the outpouring of support from the community. The majority are able to see through this very, very feeble attempt at trying to make this look justified. And I just really appreciate everything that everybody has done and helping us along the way.
Heck yeah.
Justice for Zeta.
Yeah.
Justice for Zeta. Yeah. I mean, if you take a screenshot of anything, you can make it look, I mean, you can take a screenshot of me and make me look handsome, but that doesn't mean I am ever, like a screenshot showing a dog baring its teeth and looking like it's lunging they selected that frame for a reason.
They sure did, Zeta, because they know they are wrong. Zeta
can't even bare her teeth. Her lips were too fat. We've never seen her teeth ever.
No.
Yeah.
She's a bird dog. She physically cannot.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We're going to do our best to really get this episode out there, and should come out on Monday, which is, what is that? 23rd? Is that the 23rd?
Yeah.
Yeah, 23rd. So it'll come out on Monday. Look for that, everybody. And go follow them on Facebook. It'll be down in the episode description. And Tessa and Justin, y'all stick around after the credits and I'll chat for a second.
We sure will. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week on the Free Georgia Podcast.